Hyperdrive Hockey is brought to you by the Game Over Network. Make sure to follow us on YouTube at Game Over Network and catch Hyperdrive Hockey in audio format on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other good streaming platform. Hello, beautiful citizen of the frozen pond. Welcome to another episode of Hyperdrive Hockey on the Game Over Network. My name is Maxime Vanut alongside Kevin Laramé. We are very happy to be with you today after a huge weekend in hockey news. Kevin Laramé, how are you doing, my man?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, it was a huge hockey news, of course. Friday, 3 teams decided to break the internet, and that was
three.
Yeah, exactly. Three because there's
Blackhawks.
Yeah, there's like a third wheel. So it's like when you have a friend and they're in a example. I'll use my situation. You have a couple friends, you go out with them, but you're by yourself, so you're like the third wheel, and you're just there to basically feel awkward.
Yeah, we've all third wheeled in our life.
Yeah.
Some of us, unfortunately, longer than others. That is for a whole other discussion. We are, of course, talking about the trade that sent MIkko Rantanen to the Carolina Hurricanes, Martin Necas to the Colorado Avalanche, Taylor Hall to the Carolina Hurricane, and something to Chicago.
Shout out to Jack Drury, who's also the one player that nobody talks about in this trade. So shout out to Jack
and Nils
Drury.
Jontorp.
Yeah, well, the rights to Nils Jontorp. Who is he? Exactly.
We will, of course, talk about this trade long and large today. We will talk about Alex Pietrangelo. And Kev, I can't wait to talk about Alex Pietrangelo because he's making me feel validated and a whole lot of other things in the big world of hockey. The Sens are third in Atlantic, baby. Let's go. The Ottawa Senators. Why am I an Ottawa Senators fan on this podcast? That's actually kind of weird. Just before we head to our story today, which I think you can guess what it is, let me talk to you about our partner at Hyperdrive Hockey, our beautiful partner, Xingshu Bijou, a delightfully witchy gut and glam jewelry store, making handcrafted art that varies from subtle silver and gold pieces to glamorous bespoke pieces. Inshu is more than just a company. They have built a community through their advocacy and welcoming attitude that has made them an institution in Montreal. Drop by 4000 Rue Saint-Ambroise, Suite 278, and say hi to Astrid and the Wicked team. Or if you're anywhere else, well, I was going to say in Canada, but anywhere else in the world, drop by on inchubijou.com. That is INCHOOBIJOUX.com and enhance your style. So the story today, of course, the trade. I think I can say fairly confidently that this is the biggest trade since Matthew Tkachuk to the Florida Panthers. Yeah. And this is the biggest in-season trade. I want to say since Joe Thornton to the Sharks, honestly. I'm going that far back, to be honest with you, because Joe Thornton was literally, still is to this day, the only MVP to be traded mid-season.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of anything that would have been bigger than Jumbo Joe since then, so I don't think so. Maybe Jack Eichel to the Vegas Golden Knights. But Jack Eichel was so injured and on and off at that time that I do feel that MIkko Rantanen, who is one of the top scorer in the National Hockey League for like 6 years now, is even bigger than Jack Eichel.
Yeah, I agree. And he's the 6th best points getter this year. So you never see a top 6 forward in the league get traded in game. Also, when it was Jack Eichel, he asked for a trade, so we all expected it a little bit. And of course, there was a contract situation with Rantanen, and we'll talk about it later when we go to the McKinnon side of this. But I thought it was a joke when I first heard about the trade. I was like,
"You did?"
Yeah, I was like, Frank Seravalli is wrong. That can't happen, really. And then everybody else got onto the board on the train. And I was like, wow. This is happening for real. And I was working. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I need to prepare some graphics now for this trade because we're going to talk about this very soon.
Since 2021, because there was no 2020 and 2021, he's fourth in points in the National Hockey League behind McKinnon, Draisaitl, and McDavid, and ahead of Artemi Panarin. So you thought it was a joke. Here's how I received that trade, Kev. So I was having a hockey night off on Friday. I was watching a movie, and then I don't even know how to call that. Are you familiar with Kunk? Kunk on Hurt and
I am not. I am not.
oh, okay. So it's from the BBC. It's humoristic. It's this woman, this actress from the UK. It's like a mock-up of like Discovery type of shows. That dry British humor. It's some of the most hilarious things I've ever seen. And there was a new show of this on Netflix, but I fell asleep on it, not because it's not good, just because I was completely exhausted. And so when I wake up to go to bed and brush the teeth and grab the phone, I come across a tweet with a picture that says, "Never would I have thought when the Avs won the cup that this was the last time we saw Rantanen, McKinnon, and Landeskog together on the ice." And you know what my reaction was?
Landeskog retired.
Landeskog retired. I was like, "Oh, Gabriel Landeskog just retired," and so I'm headed over to I don't remember which site, which page, but to see the news, to read a text, whatever. It blows in my face a picture of Rantanen and Martin Necas, and I'm like, "Oh, wait a minute." I'm not even sure where to begin with that trade, Kev, to be honest with you, because there's so much to talk about. I got to be honest with you. Let's start there. No disrespect at all to Martin Necas, but my initial reaction to a Mikko Rantanen trade being pretty much Martin Necas, no disrespect to Jack Drury, and a second round pick in 2025, fourth round pick in 2026, no first round pick was. Even though Necas, has blew up this year, he has slowed down a bit in the past month and a half.
A lot even. The first he was top 5 scorer in the beginning of his 21st first game, and then he's just like a scorer for the last 14. But
yeah, he was. He went berserk. He had 2 points in his second game with the Colorado Avalanche on Sunday. So yeah, my initial reaction was that's not a lot for Rantanen, and then because I figured this was a sign and trade, and then no, Mikko Rantanen for now. He has a lot of time, but for now is still an impending free agent, unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. It didn't come with a guarantee of a contract on the Carolina Hurricanes side. So suddenly my head went 180 and I was like, oh, wait a minute. The Carolina Hurricanes paid that much without a guaranteed of a contract? Let's be real. If they went for him, we know that he wants Leon Draisaitl money. He is represented by the same agency as Leon Draisaitl. The number that it has circulated is $14 million. The Carolina Hurricanes, if I know this, the Carolina Hurricanes sure as hell know this. So clearly they are prepared to offer that money. Yeah. They have Sebastian Aho there. So I honestly do believe that it will come with a contract extension at some point for Mikko Rantanen. But my first reaction was to feel a bit weird on both sides. So once I realized that there was no contract extension instantly signed, I was like, okay, so that is good on Colorado. Getting Martin Necas, he's playing with Nathan MacKinnon. I fully expect Martin Necas to be at the very least a point per game player if he plays some healthy minutes with Nathan MacKinnon on the power play with Kel McCarr. I don't see how Martin Necas isn't even maybe 100-point guy next year. So good on the Colorado Avalanche for not losing Mikko Rantanen for nothing. That was my initial reaction to the trade from a hockey standpoint. What was your initial reaction, Kev?
Well, at first I was a bit puzzled. I'm like, how can you trade a top 6 player in today's age? And I was like, is it really true, like I was saying earlier? But then I started thinking and looking at the numbers. Then I'm like, okay, if Jack Drury leaves, Mikko Rantanen is going to Carolina, Necas to Colorado. And with the cap space they had already, what is the projected free cap space for next year for Carolina? Then I did some digging in the numbers. You know what the cap space is about? They have about
for Carolina?
They have about $50 million free for next year. And that happens to be about the amount that Rantanen would like. So I do expect a signing here too. Let's not forget, 50% of the salary of this year of Rantanen is actually paid by the Chicago Blackhawks, who decided to just receive a pick that they traded to Carolina last year and then returned their third round pick in 2025, and also 50% of the Rantanen's salary. So it's a rental player for this year, and they have a chance they can sign him. They have the money free for next year. I think it's a do-over from last year when they traded to get Jake Gensel and were not able to sign him as a free agent. I think it's part two of a big splash that Carolina's trying to do, and this time they actually are prepared to have the money to sign Rantanen if he decides that he wants to stay in the Carolinas.
Yeah, that is a very interesting point that you are bringing. Let's stick with the Carolina Hurricanes for a minute. So you talked about Jake Gensel. According to a lot of insiders, there were talks between the Carolina Hurricanes for either JT Miller and Elias Pettersson. So clearly, the Carolina Hurricanes have become a team that want to go all in. A once small team from a small, non-traditional market that had at some point financial problems here in Quebec. What was it? I feel like 10 to 15 years ago, there was a moment people thought the Carolina Hurricanes were going to move to Quebec City because there was a woman looking at plane charts and seeing a lot of chartered planes from Quebec City to Raleigh. Anyway, let's not get into this. This is really like deep lore. So they're all in. They're completely all in. You just talked about Jake Gensel. I talked about the potential trades with the Vancouver Canucks. Good on them. Good on them. They have a good core. They haven't been able to go to the Stanley Cup. They are in a window. They're at a moment that with that group, if the Carolina Hurricanes do not win a Stanley Cup with what they have built in the past 6 years, in the next few years, it will be a huge disappointment to me. But here's the thing, Kev. Although it could work out in the end, although I do applaud the idea of, spending to go get Mikko Rantanen, because I do really like Mikko Rantanen. I don't think he's going to take a huge drop not playing with Makar and McKinnon anymore. The fact that they went after Gensel, couldn't keep him, went after some Canucks player, couldn't get them, then went at Rantanen. There is a part of me that kind of get the feeling of, I don't know if, let me know in the comment, people, and excuse my French. I don't know if you have the same expression in English, but in French, we say new rich. So, new rich people don't spend their money the same way as old money. So I think that's how you call it, new money. So when you're new money, you see those weird houses with, and I feel like the Carolina Hurricanes right now are kind of like new money. It's like, oh, let's get Gensel. Oh, no, let's get Pettersson. Oh, let's get Mikko Rantanen. And it could work out in the end. But I am curious about the big picture here, the plan. Is there a plan, or was it just we need one more big-time player? We can do it with our good, deep core, but that doesn't have that A-lister, because with all due respect to both Sebastian Aho, Andrei Svechnikov, they're not pure A-listers. They're extremely good hockey players, but they're not face of a franchise, face of a league type of player. And I think Rantanen, even though he was like third wheel in Colorado, can be that type of player. So I'm cool with the move. I hope it works for them. But there is a part of me that questions, is there a plan here, or is it just spending for the sake of spending?
And we all know that rental players do not necessarily always pan out. But being a team that started the train for the trade this year, right? We're still far away from March 7th, the trading deadline. So there's still a lot of time for other teams to adjust. But Carolina, and this is one quote that I heard one of my colleagues say at TVA Sports, are like, well, even if you want to wait closer to trade the deadline, if you have the trade that you want already on the table, just pull the trigger. Just do it. And they did it. And I think there's that time period of adjustment before the trade deadline. He's actually going to be more accustomed to his new players, new teammates. And when push comes to shove later in the season, Carolina is already in a good spot to make the playoffs and be top 3 in their division. With this signing, they could maybe even think of maybe a deeper run over the playoffs.
From a Colorado standpoint now, Kev, after, looking at it and considering the implication, the player, the money, all of that, I am starting to like this trend more and more for Colorado for many reasons. Number one, honestly, I think the only downside here is maybe rubbing your star players the wrong way. And in fact, we got a bit of a look into this from Nathan MacKinnon, who at first glance, at the very least, didn't look like a very satisfied man. Let's go and listen to Nathan MacKinnon on the trade of Mikko Rantanen.
Might make more than you can. Yeah. I don't care. I mean, I was making for a long time. I don't know if I was top 5 on the team, so I don't like. if anyone who really knows me knows I really don't care about money. It's the last thing on my mind. And, you know, if whoever's up, I mean, if Kale's up, who knows, he could 20. So it's like, it is what it is. You have to talk to Joe and C-Mac. I mean, I think I want guys to get paid. I think he's earned it. MIkko's earned a big payday. He's scoring 50, 100 points every season. So, like I said, I don't know exactly what happened. I'll have to talk to Chris and Joe and MIkko, and I'm sure there's lots of sides to every story, but I just know I'm going to miss him, and he's such a great person, so it's gonna be tough.
Now, don't get me wrong. Nathan MacKinnon's a pro. Nathan MacKinnon knows it's a business. He'll probably move on from this. He'll make Martin Necas feel right at home and all that, but clearly, and it's normal. I mean, Mikko Rantanen has been his partner in crime. They had an incredible chemistry together. They won a cup together. And I liked when he said, you know, like that he has no, like, he wants guys to get paid. He deserves, like, you know, at the end of the day, at an extreme, let's be real, at least for us middle class people level, you know, the players are the workers who just want to get paid. It's okay. I have absolutely no problem with that. But that is my only gripe with the trade, is that if you just did Rob MacKinnon and Makar the wrong way, you could have a bit of rumblings on the side of Colorado. Because from a purely hockey standpoint, Kev, I do like Mikko Rantanen, but even with the cap going up as much as it will in the next few years, let's be real. There is one Batman, or at the very least, there is one Batman people know, because at some point, Dick Grayson was Batman. And I know my lore, okay? But there is one Batman, and that is Bruce Wayne for most of the time. But there are a gazillion Robin. At first, there was Dick Grayson, then there was Jason Todd, then there was Tim Drake, then, you know, there were millions of Robins. So Mikko Rantanen was Robin. But not only that, but the Colorado Avalanche have Batman, and they also happen to have Superman on the back end, and Cale Makar.
And Superman needs to get paid soon.
Yeah,
so there you go.
Superman needs to get paid, and you're going to favor Batman and Superman ahead of Robin. And there comes a time where you go, if you want to have a full team that fits, can you have so much money on 3 players? Maybe it can work. And as I said, with the cap going up, this probably won't be as big a problem as it has been these past few years. It has been a big problem for the Toronto Maple Leafs. It has been a big problem for the Edmonton Oilers. But I do think that apart from maybe the way they have managed things, because, as I said, clearly MacKinnon doesn't seem too happy with it short term, I think Colorado here is making a good decision, because he was and always was going to be, you know, the sidekick to MacKinnon from an offensive standpoint, you know, on an offensive side of things. I understand that Makar is an offensive player, but I mean, he's a defenseman. You bring in Necas, who I don't know if at this point he's not as good as Rantanen. Let's be real. At this point, he has not proven that he's as good as Rantanen, but I do think he can bring, at the very least, close to the production Rantanen was bringing for probably half the money for the next 2 years. And then Colorado, when you look at the Colorado Avalanche, this isn't a team that won the Stanley Cup a few years back. This is a team that lacks depth. This is a team, with all due respect, but has Archeri Lehkonen on the first unit of the power play. This is a team that could benefit from a bona fide second centerman. This is a team that could benefit from a very solid second pair defenseman that could help to alleviate the charge of Makar and Devon Taves. This is a team that needs depth. They still have, in MacKinnon and Makar, I personally consider that they're still a top 3 team at the very least in terms of pure star power at the top. I have them in the top 2 behind the Oilers. I still, even if there are only 2 of them now, I still have them ahead of the Leafs. You could argue that the Leafs, with the 3 of them, I'm very sorry to John Tavares at this point in his career. I don't consider that a big 4 anymore. It's a big 3 to me. Willie Nylander, Matthews, and Marner. Yeah, I'm going to take MacKinnon and Makar ahead of those 3 together. So you still have that. It's not like you just let go of your star and you don't have that star power anymore. You still have it in Makar and MacKinnon. Maybe at some point, we never know. Officially, he's not retired yet. You're going to get Landeskog back. But it will depend. Will that move bring depth to the Colorado Avalanche? If it does, I think in the long run, it can help Colorado win that second Stanley Cup.
I think it also brings flexibility, because of the difference of money. They can actually adjust if something happens. We're talking about a team that at the beginning of the season, they had Justus Anunen and Alexander Gorgiev as their goalkeepers. They've already adjusted from that. A team that is not afraid to pull the trigger. So if anything else happens, if there's an opportunity down the road, with the money they save versus Necas and Rantanen, they might have a better shot to adjust to whatever the league says. And also, if the cap goes up, you're not necessarily going to put yourself up against the cap. You still have even more space than anticipated. So financially speaking, it does make sense. It's just you have to sell this trade to your fan base, sell this trade to your top players. But after one game, I was like, But after a second game where he got 2 assists and Colorado won 5-4 against the Rangers Sunday afternoon and looked really good, and Cale Makar won 2 goals and an assist, looked great too. Well, maybe it's going to be just fine for the Colorado Avalanche.
And now the most important point. Let's talk about the big player here, the Chicago Blackhawks. No, I'm completely kidding. What? I don't understand why the Blackhawks came in and helped those teams, because, like, it's kind of weird. Like, I know he's in the later stage of his career, but we're barely even talking about Taylor Hall in all of this, who can be a good depth acquisition for the Carolina Hurricanes. I don't understand why the Blackhawks came in, because a 3rd-round pick, I do believe they would have gotten a 3rd-round pick at any point for sure. For Taylor Hall. Why do they help those 2 teams? Unless they know something we don't. Unless they are sure that Mikko Rantanen will not sign with the Carolina Hurricanes, and they hope that he will remember who took some money when the times come. All jokes aside, I don't understand that for Chicago, but hey.
Chicago's not ready to be there anyways. They're still in the rebuild. They're still a few years away from being decent.
But why are you helping other teams out?
Well, I think it does have to do with the salary cap, but different way speaking. I think it has to do with, we always talk about the salary cap and the ceiling. We forget there's a floor to the salary cap too. So
that is true.
By letting Taylor Hall go, by getting some of the salary of Rantanen, 50%, you make sure that you stay above that floor without overexpending your potential trades for the next few years. You have players that in the next 2 years, Bedard's going to be off his rookie contract. He'll need to have probably not a bridge, but a long-term contract. That's how it goes nowadays. Other young players too. There's rumors that they're trying to offload Philipp Kurashev. They're losing their patience with that young player. So there's a lot of things happening, and Chicago is not just in a rebuild, they're also in a transition year, going from one bad coach to another bad coach, and we'll see where that goes for the end of the season. We might have somebody else next year. Who knows if the GM even is going to be there next year. It's a rebuild that is not necessarily going the way they want. They'll need a goaltender. So heading into next year, it gives you flexibility. And yes, you're helping other teams, which means next time you call for something, maybe they'll remember.
Valid point. A very, very valid point, especially about the salary floor. Okay, let us know in the comment what you think about that trade, what you think from a Carolina standpoint, what you think from a Colorado standpoint, and if, like Kevin, you have valid points regarding the Chicago Blackhawks, please let your boy know in the comments, because I'm too dumb to figure this out on my own. Okay, let's go talk about other news around Planet Hockey. Looking for a way to make awesome memories with your friends? Want to take some promotional pictures with for your business? Check out Le Saint Motel in Montreal Southwest. It's an amazing selfie studio located in historic Chateau Saint-Ambroise. It boasts 12 unique decors for you to enjoy and make memories. Hop in their iconic heart-shaped ball pit or transport yourself back in time to Expo 67. The Saint Motel can also come to you with mobile decor setups available for rent or events, including setups and takedown. Head to lesaintmotel.com for more details or to check out their amazing decors that are always being updated. Kev, I feel incredibly validated today. I feel incredibly validated thanks to Alex Pietrangelo, who, despite not being injured enough, at the very least, to miss some games for the Vegas Golden Knights, has up tough the Four Nations face-off to take care of some ailments and focus on the rest of the season for the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, we talked at length about that Four Nations face-off in the last episode. You can go back and catch it on either YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts from. I don't think Alex Pietrangelo will be the only player to pull this off. I know a lot of people say that those type of international tournaments are more important for Euros than they are for us North Americans. So I don't know if any Euros will pull off. But at the same time, it's not an official IIHF tournament. So will it be just as important for the Euros? I do not know. What I do know is this. Alex Pietrangelo is not injured enough to miss game. And I do not believe Alex Pietrangelo pulls this off in the same situation next year at the Olympics. I don't know what you think about it, Kev, but no, I don't see any player, unless they are really injured to the point of missing games, skipping the Olympics, and he is skipping that Four Nations face-off.
Yeah, and according to his official press release, he said it's to take care of some ailment, well, one ailment, and to get ready for the rest of the season. I was working on the Golden Knights game last night, and there was one moment where he got hit, and he got hit not awkwardly, but he got hit, and it felt like it was hurting his hips or his leg, and he went down quite awkwardly, and I think that's where the ailment is. So there is, I believe, an ailment, but there's also the idea of I don't want to overextend myself, play too many games, and I want to make sure the Golden Knights are there when it really counts in the playoffs. You're right, it might be the first of many to decide not to play. And one thing that I don't think people are aware is teams have until February 11th to announce roster changes. That is the day before the beginning of the tournament on February 12th. The reason for that is to make sure that tickets still sell well, but maybe late February 11th at night or in the evening, we will have a lot of people pulling out of the tournament. I don't expect big names because there is some
No. Connor McDavid will not pull off of this, for example, unless he has to.
But you remember a few years ago, the NHL for the All-Star game mentioned that, look, we want the stars to be there. So not only do you have to participate if you're named to the All-Star game, but if you play the game before and you don't play the All-Star game, you'll be suspended one game. Yeah. You famously, players like Ovechkin and stuff almost got suspended for it. There's no.
I think he was suspended one game.
Yeah, he was suspended one game. There is no such rules for the Four Nations tournament or the Four Nations face-off. So I am expecting a few other names before February 11th to be pulling out of the tournament.
I agree. And we talked about it in the last episode. Even more now that the glass ceiling has been broken. He's still not back in net, so I don't expect Linus Solmark to go for Sweden, but what do I know? No. Maybe I'll be completely wrong.
And just on the same topic, Swedish goalkeeper Jakob Markstrom is officially been replaced by Samuel Ersson if you want to say it better, of Philadelphia, who's having a decent season. And while it's slim pickings when you're looking at Swedish goalie, it was either Samuel Ersson or Anton Forsberg, who's literally the backup to Ullmark. So maybe they're going to replace Ullmark with Anton Forsberg at all. Anyways.
That would be hilarious. So who will replace Pietrangelo now? Of course, he's a right shot D, so Mackenzie Weegar is a name that pops off in your head. According to Pierre Lebrun, Drew Doughty will be back within the next few games for the LA Kings. If he is healthy enough, he could go. I think that a healthy Drew Doughty would have made that roster anyway.
Sure, yeah.
Renaud Lavoie recently during the holidays, or no, I don't think it was during the holidays. It was a few weeks back. Anyways, said that Mike Madison apparently was on Canada's list. He is a left shot D, but he is currently playing on the right side alongside Lane Hodson. I honestly do not expect Mike Madison to get a call, but I was already surprised that apparently he's on the list. With all due respect to Mike Madison, who is a player that I love. So we will, of course, keep this in mind. Alex Pietrangelo, of course, is a two-time Stanley Cup champion and an Olympic gold medalist.
Yeah, I have a little bit of inside information on that too. I do work for TV Sports, which is the same channel as Renaud Lavoie. And 4 names are actually being circulated more than others right now. You have Mike Matheson. Mike Matheson would be maybe the 4th of those 4. Evan Bouchard from Edmonton. Thomas Chabot from Ottawa is also one of the names that's been circulating here and there. And Dougie Hamilton from New Jersey is also one of the names possible.
Yeah.
If you're going with one thing that they've been doing, if you look at Cale Makar, Devontae's, and the whole idea of having Pietrangelo was to make him play with Shea Theodore, so you have two of your three defensive pairing that are actually teammates and play on the same line. The other possibility is Braden McNabb, who's been having a lot of good games recently, that could be maybe Shea Theodore's pairing as a defenseman.
The thing is, Alex Pietrangelo is even at this stage in his career is still an incredibly well-rounded defenseman. And among the names you've mentioned, I hear a lot of offensive-minded defensemen.
Yes.
Shea Theodore is an offensive-minded defenseman. He's a great. I love Shea Theodore. I think Shea Theodore is amazing. To me, the name that makes the most sense, because he is a right shot, is Dougie Hamilton, actually.
Exactly.
If not, I really like Thomas Chabot. I'm a big Thomas Chabot fan. So, but a left shot D, an offensive-minded defenseman, was completely amazing with Team Canada back in the World Juniors. We'll wait and see. We will wait and see on that one.
Don't disregard Braden McNabb. Maybe it's just a statistics point of view, but he's one of the few defensemen who's in the plus 20s this year. He's plus 27 with yesterday's
the profile
game.
fits a lot.
Exactly, yeah, and he's also Shea Theodore's teammate. So, in a short-term tournament that you will need good defensemen to protect your goalies, let's be fair for Canada, maybe you do need defensemen that are used to playing together. McCarthy, you're obviously first unit. Then Theodore, McNabb, maybe. And then that's where it gets a bit more slim. You have Parayko and other players with Travis Sanheim, maybe number 7 on there.
The big Elias Pettersson news we were all waiting for has finally dropped. I'm kidding. I just wanted to mention that Elias Pettersson and Elias Pettersson played together for the first time this weekend. Yes, there are two of them. Did you know this was not the first time in the history of the league that two doppelganger? Well, actually, that's not doppelganger. Is it doppelganger?
Well,
I don't think it's doppelganger.
Physically, but
exactly.
Two namesake played together. It's the second time.
Yeah, there's a term for that. I can fully grasp it. Anyways, homonym in French, it's homonym. Anyways. Yeah. Greg Adams and Greg Adams played together in 88-89. Do you know for which franchise, Kev?
Let me see. Greg Adams. I don't know. I'll say the Rangers.
No. The Vancouver Canucks.
Of course. The Canucks. Also, if you're a GM and you call them to get an Elias Pettersson trade, just be careful. Make sure you go more into detail than just the name. You might get the wrong one.
Make sure you get the right one. That is hilarious. Of course, Sebastian Aho could fall into that category if ever they play together.
Again, not same talent. You know, you're looking at the Aho for the Islanders and the Aho for Carolina. It's a bit of the same dichotomy with the Petterssons in Vancouver. There's one really, really good, and then there's the other one.
My only disappointment with this is I wish Elias Pettersson wears number 40. Imagine he was wearing, I don't know, number 44, and then the other Elias Pettersson comes in and wears number 4. Or if Elias Pettersson, the first of his name, had a number, that could be flipped. So let's say he wore a classic center number 19, and then the other Elias Pettersson comes in and wears 91. I'm really sorry if I'm going full nerd here, but this is the type of thing that I find funny and I would have liked to see. All jokes aside, the Ottawa Senators are now third in the Atlantic. I repeat, the Ottawa Senators are third in the Atlantic, and Linus Ullmark isn't even back yet. Kev, I've been talking about it at length. I was confident in the Ottawa Senators. I am even more confident in the Ottawa Senators. Now, I'm starting to think that this could be no fluke and that they could actually take that spot from the Lightning, the third spot in the Atlantic, which, to be fair, isn't that much of a reward in this division because you will play either the Leafs or the Florida Panthers anyways. But it is really impressive. They have won their 2 games this weekend. Is it me or the Ottawa Senators often play back-to-back on Saturday and Sunday too? Yeah,
no, they often do that. And you're right, though. It's going to be it might change after Monday and Tuesday. Boston and Tampa Bay play later on. Well, Tampa Bay. Yeah. And it can change really quickly. But it's going to be a Royal Rumble for the wild card spots. And 4 or 5 teams in the mix, if not more. So it will be quite the race to the playoff this year.
Yeah, and if you could, because a lot of players, among them Brady Tkachuk, ended the streak, a goalless streak this weekend. if those players can find their groove, Claude Giroux too had his streak ended. His goal is, I say streak, it's a drought actually. It's not a streak. Streak is when it's good. If they can find their groove, find consistency, and if Linus Ullmark can get back in good health, I do believe those Ottawa Senators will make noise, not only in this winter, but in the spring too. I am a big believer in the Ottawa Senators, who will play preseason games, by the way, in Quebec City next fall. It was announced on Monday morning, and they're going to play without any help from public funding.
No public funding. No Kings of Los Angeles Kings situation there for Quebec.
Exactly. That one was we just talked about the Petterssons, but let's get back to that, because from a more serious standpoint, I was actually surprised that, because we talked about it last week, but I really thought that Elias Pettersson, mentioning to the team that he wanted to stay put, would really, put to bed the rumors surrounding Elias Pettersson, and that all the focus now would be on JT Miller. And once JT Miller would be dealt, that would be good. That would be the team. That would be the way we go. But I guess I'm an idiot, and I was wrong, because the narrative surrounding Elias Pettersson has not been put to bed. And one team that keeps coming in and that is really interested in Elias Pettersson is the Buffalo Sabres. And two names that have come up are Bowen Byram and Dylan Cousins. Now, these are intriguing names. These are names that really fit what the Canucks need. A good left shot D that can help Quinn Hughes maybe play a little less minute and be fresher come playoff time. Not that from a purely playing standpoint, a purely hockey standpoint, Quinn Hughes needs any help, because he's having, he won the Norris last year, and he's having the season of his career again this year. So it's absolutely crazy. He recently said that he's playing the best hockey in his career. I completely agree with him. I really like the idea of Bowen Byram. It's Dylan Cousins I'm not sure about. Dylan Cousins had an incredible season 2 years ago. He had 68 points as a, 21-year-old. And looked like a blossoming young star. He has regressed these past two seasons. Has he really regressed because the Buffalo Sabres are the Buffalo Sabres and everything that comes out of Buffalo eventually pans out? I do not know. But I am curious if Bowen Byram and Dylan Cousins would be enough for the Canucks. And here's what I mean by that, is that I really do think that JT Miller is a goner. Whatever happens to Elias Pettersson, I'm having a hard time seeing how JT Miller stays at Canucks. If you do end up trading Elias Pettersson, and the centerman you are getting for him is Dylan Cousins, and you are also trading JT Miller, you go from two heck of centermen to, and all due respect to Dylan Cousins, but to, at the best, question mark. At the best, question mark. Can Dylan Cousins get to Vancouver and finally get back not only to the groove he had 2 years ago, but get even better? He is only 23 years old. He could do that. But I don't think down the middle as centerman, if Dylan Cousins is one of the players you get at center for Elias Pettersson, I don't think that is enough for the Vancouver Canucks. I really do think they are better off with Elias Pettersson and maybe get that defenseman to help Quinn Hughes in a JT Miller trade.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So not a whole lot to add on that one. But yeah, I think that would be the way to do it for the benefit of Vancouver long term.
You briefly mentioned it, Kev. The Jakob Markstrom injuries has brought changes for Team Sweden, but we didn't know the extent of Jakob Markstrom's injury when we last talked. 4 to 6 weeks, which I'm going to be honest with you, in the circumstances, I think is the best case scenario for the Devils. Yeah, I thought that Markstrom was going to be gone longer than that. So a month to a month and a half is actually good. Jake Allen's a good veteran. I mean, at this point in his career, well, you could argue that any point in his career, but he's no Jakob Markstrom, but he can hold the fort. The New Jersey Devils, they're not like, they could go on a poor streak that would, take them down the standings. But at this point in the season, I don't see how they can get out of the playoffs. Absolutely not. It's not like last season. It would really take a disaster. But best case scenario to me, Jakob Markstrom. And I think they should even go to 6 Make sure the man is back in full health for the playoff for the New Jersey Devils.
I agree. It's a sprained MCL. It could have been a torn one, but no, it's the best case scenario for the Devils. Jake Allen can maybe hold the fort for 4 to 6 weeks. Hopefully the Devils don't sustain too many defeats in that time period and stay in the best of the hunt for the top of the Metropolitan, which is going to be the case. But for now, it's going to be on Jake Allen to just maintain them. You don't need to be the superhero. Just maintain them where they are. And when Markstrom comes back, and of course you have a pretty good offensive core, a defensive core also, that can carry this team to what could be hopefully a couple rounds in the playoffs.
You know that meme from The Simpsons of Moe throwing Barney away from the bar and Barney's instantly back behind him. You've seen that meme before?
Yeah, of course.
That is Tony DeAngelo. And Tony DeAngelo, of course, in that scenario being Barney, and I guess the NHL being Mo. Tony DeAngelo, a few weeks after leaving Russia, is back in the NHL. He will play he has actually started. He's played his first game for the New York Islanders. The man has 9 lives. And I have absolutely nothing else to say about Tony DeAngelo.
Barney, probably a fair comparison. Just Google Tony and DeAngelo and you'll have all you need to know about the character.
Exactly. I'm actually quite surprised that he's getting another shot. But you know what? The man, from a purely legal standpoint, has done absolutely nothing wrong. And, I just don't think that the talent is enough to overcompensate what clearly is a non-appreciated persona in the locker room, is the way I will phrase it.
Yeah, I agree.
One last thing I wanted to talk about. There is a new team that has been born in the QMJHL. So if you've been following this, if you follow junior hockey, you know that the Acadie Bathurst Titans will move next year to St. John, Newfoundland. This is the second time the Q is headed to St. John, Newfoundland. There was a very brief and unsuccessful stint back in the 2000s. It was from 2005 to 2008, the St. John's Fog Devils. But they will be back next year. And they will be back under the name Newfoundland Regiment. They have revealed the logos. They have revealed the branding last Friday. And quite frankly, I think it's very well done by the team. I love the name Newfoundland Regiment. If you are wondering, it's in honor of a military regiment that, among many things, fought in the First World War. I am personally a big fan of team names that are rooted in the history and the culture of the place they play. I much prefer that to random names like Titans. Yeah. Last time I checked, I haven't seen a Titan in my life. So all jokes aside, I really love the name. The logo is based on the insignia of that regiment. It's really well done with the caribou at the front, crown. Honestly, I can't wait to see the jersey. The colors are pretty much the Montréal Victoire colors, just to give you an indicative. So it's a deep burgundy, or think a deeper Colorado Avalanche, actually. Also, if you do not have really been following the PWHL, which you should, by the way. So yeah, I really dig the logo. I really dig the historical references, and I can't wait to see the jersey. With a logo like this, I think they're going to go for a traditional hockey look more than a crazy look that we sometimes see in junior hockey, which I don't have a problem with, by the way.
I just want to say rest in peace to the Titans de Laval. It was a good run, and the last thing that was left of that franchise was the name in Acadie Bathurst. When I was a kid, that's where I used to go. I used to go to the House of Pain, Colisée de Laval, to see Bob Hartley and Michel Terrien coach the Titans de Laval and House of Pain in the playoffs. It's legendary. You can Google it, see the images of that arena during playoff runs in the early 90s with the Titans de Laval. It was quite a scene. And they eventually moved to Acadie Bathurst, and now the namesake is gone. Rest in peace. Stop.
Did Bobby Lou play there, or were they already in Batters when he played for the Titans?
I do not know the answer.
I think, let me check. I don't want to leave our listeners on No, they were already in Batters. They were in Batters. I think it was the first year in Batters. Yeah. So after his days with the Valdorf, oh wow, Bobby Lou went back-to-back Q champion. I didn't remember that. I
Yeah,
remember
with
he won in
Valdor.
Valdor.
Yeah, Valdor. Yeah.
I didn't remember the championship with Acadie Batters. So yeah, yeah. So the St. John Newfoundland getting a team. It's actually cool because they lost their teams with an S because they had the Ice Caps in the AHL, they had the Growlers in the ECHL. Of course, Newfoundland being so isolated makes it tough. I really do hope it works though. For this franchise in Newfoundland. The people there deserve quality hockey, and they will get quality hockey from the QMJHL. Thank you so much for listening again today, folks. If you want to find a way to support Game Over Network, head over to the GameOverNetwork.com. You can get yourself a piece of merch, whether a t-shirt, a hoodie, a toque, a cap, a mug, whatever you can to help us grow. Also, if you have a few more spare bucks, well, you can head over to our Patreon to support the Game Over Network. Game Over Networks hires 30 young journalists and analysts across Canada. My name is Max Vanut alongside Kevin Laramé. Hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. Drop a review if you're listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And we will talk to you on the next episode of Hyperdrive Hockey. Thank you, everyone.
We'll be right back.